Hello people of Scotland, this is Graham Davis. I'm from south of the border, as you can probably tell. I just want to say something about your referendum, because I hope that you're going to make a decision based on knowledge rather than the myths traded by politicians north and south of the border. With any vote, with any referendum, it is the economy stupid, as Bill Clinton once said. And the economy of Scotland is not just dependent upon oil, it's dependent upon many other things. Financial services, for example, which are 120% the size of the Scottish GDP, which makes you very, very vulnerable, just like Iceland was during the crash of 5 or 6 years ago. But the biggest problem you face is that you want to use the pound, which of course you could do. At least Alex Salmond wants you to use the pound. But he confuses using the pound with sharing the pound. Sharing the pound means that you have access to the central bank and the decision making that the Bank of England governor has available to him, particularly with things like interest rates. So just imagine if, as Alex Salmond suggests, the Scottish economy takes off after the vote, and you're doing really well, and inflation starts to spike. When that happens, central banks raise interest rates to dampen down the economy. Now, you won't have that option, because unless miraculously the remaining British economy and the Scottish economy are always linked and in tandem, then we will be looking after our interests south of the border. We won't be concerned with your problems. This makes it very, very difficult for you. I'm sure Scotland could manage its own affairs without any problem whatsoever if it had its own currency, or, if you preferred, rather bizarrely, to join the euro. But I don't think you'll do either of those things. There is no plan B for Scotland, and you will have to suffer the consequences of a yes vote in having a currency which is dominated by a much bigger partner. It would be like us in the rest of the United Kingdom adopting the dollar and then hoping that the American president would somehow look after our interests at the same time as looking after his. There may be times where they converge, and that's fine, but most of the time economies are different, and you don't want to be another Panama or another small country that relies upon someone else's good nature and someone else's well-being. The Scottish banks, and those based in Scotland, are already beginning to make contingency plans to move south of the border, should there be a yes vote. And this is very obvious, because they recognise that just as they were bailed out in the last financial crisis, in the future, the only way that this could happen again would be if they were in the remainder of the UK. They recognise that Scotland cannot do this alone without its own central bank. The guarantees that are offered by the Bank of England for depositors will not be available to anyone in Scotland. Jobs, of course, will move south as well. You may get some additional ones, but they will move south. Certainly a lot of financial services, a lot of military contracts, shipbuilding, will inevitably move south. And the problems that you have are going to be insurmountable unless you have your own currency. So think about it and look after your own self-interest. Do what you think is best, but just do so with the full knowledge of what's going to happen if you do what Alex Salmond wants you to do, and that is to use the pound. I wish Scotland well, and I think you could be a fantastic independent country, but only if you have your own currency and central bank. There's no hope otherwise. You will just be reliant upon us, and I don't think you want that. That's not independence.